What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. The linebacker beat rolls on. We've got some more starting caliber linebackers to take a look at here. More guys that you would have to give somewhere around $5 to $7 million a year to get, and guys who you would bring in to start. You wouldn't necessarily expect them to play great, but you would expect them to be workable. You would expect them to be not negatives. You would expect them to be decent. You would expect them to be more part of the solution than part of the problem. That's how I would qualify it. These are your starters, your mid-level starters. We had 3 earlier today. Now we're going to do 3 more. We're going to start with a guy that we are also familiar with, Cody Barton. Cody Barton, and make whatever jokes you want to make. Cody Barton had a good year with the Denver Broncos in 2024, and he is going to be a free agent of some covetability in 2025. He's going to turn 29 in November, so he's still young. He's basically in his prime, and he played the full season for the Broncos this year. Played well, over 100 tackles. Not that that necessarily means he was good, but he was part of a really good defense. I think the Broncos had one of the best defenses in football, and Cody Barton was a significant part of that. And it's not like previous years where the box score stats looked good, but you could find all these really ugly moments on the highlight reel. And if you actually broke it down, you would find a really poor player. No, he actually played well. And even better than he did in Washington. Like in Washington, he was putting up good numbers, but there was a sense that he wasn't all that good still. It was just kind of empty stats. But in Denver, all that has kind of gone away. Pro Football Focus thinks he was a above average linebacker in 2024 on over 1,000 snaps. They gave him a lot of credit. 66.1 is credible. And you can go back and see that they didn't love what he did the previous year in Washington. 2023, they graded him poorly. So they saw something they liked in him that they had not seen before, because we know his PFF grades in 2020, well, I should say anytime during his Seattle tenure, tended to not be very good. So Cody Barton found something in Denver. Maybe it was because he had such good teammates. Maybe you want to give more credit to a Zach Allen or a Patrick Surtain or a whoever, whatever, what Nick Bonito, well, they don't have Baron Browning anymore, but whoever you want to give the a lot of credit to on the Broncos defense, maybe that's more than Barton, but he is doing a thing. He has become a legitimately good starting caliber linebacker in this league. So much so that Spotrac thinks he's going to get a multi-year deal, 2 years, $13.2 million. That's $6.6 million per year, which would actually put him surprisingly close to the top of the inside linebacker rankings in the NFL. Now, would I do this? Probably not. I do think that even though Cody Barton has clearly become a better player than he used to be, I don't know if this is really a McDonald kind of linebacker. I think he likes guys who can get off blockers a little bit better. And in Denver, I don't think Cody Barton had to think about that as much. But I do think somebody's going to give him this kind of money. Maybe it's going to be more like 2 years, 12 million, but he's played well and he deserves something. So Cody Barton's going to be the first candidate to consider. Next guy is going to be Kyzir White. Kyzir White of the Arizona Cardinals was a Chargers draft pick many years ago. Plays linebacker, has also played some safety, about to turn 29. Interesting player for sure. He spent a year in Philadelphia, the year they made the Super Bowl. Kind of a versatile piece. You can play him as a defensive back, an oversized safety, or you play him as a little bit of an undersized linebacker. But the last 2 years for Arizona, he's been a reliable force for their defense. This last year, he played every game. He played every game in his last year with the Chargers. Played every game with Philadelphia. He didn't start every game, but he was a big part of that defense. So, good player. Now he's looking to try to get paid a little bit here. Pro Football Focus, not a fan of his 2024, though. This is a guy who played a lot, 1,000 snaps, so it's a good sample size, 48.8. So, You guys know that I'm not a big fan of Pro Football Focus when it comes to linebackers. I think that they get things wrong sometimes, so I'm not saying that he's good or bad just because PFF says he's good or bad. Same with Cody Barton. Same with Cody Barton, right? But I do think that when they've at least been willing to give the players some credit in previous years and then suddenly they stop, or vice versa, that's at least worth considering, right? And the previous year, 2023, they thought he was okay. They thought he was close to average. And I think Pro Football Focus was pretty complimentary of him in 2022 when he was on the Eagles, a really good unit. So probably benefited a little bit from being around really, really good players in Philly. So I would look at a Kyzir White with a good degree of caution. He's a decent enough player, but I don't think this fits what we're looking for. He's an undersized linebacker slash oversized safety. And Spotrac thinks he's going to get a 2-year deal, 11.6 million. That's 5.8 million per. I'm not really feeling this one. I think I can do better than this one. So Kyzir White, pretty good player, deserves some money, but I kind of I'm a little bit lukewarm on this one just because I don't know about the fit. And again, at the end of the day, McDonald decides what can and cannot fit in his defense. But based on my read of things, I would say that Kyzir White probably better off looking elsewhere if you need to find a mid-level linebacker to be a starter. And then the final guy in this video is going to be EJ Speed. EJ Speed, also a little bit undersized, 5th-round pick of the Colts in 2019, has put together a pretty nice career. He became a full-time starter basically these last 2 seasons. Before then, he was a depth piece. He was basically a depth piece his entire rookie contract, which, I mean, that's not super exciting, but the last 2 years he's been good. And this last year he was near the league lead in tackles, 142, and he missed 2 games. So he would have he probably would have averaged right around 10 tackles a game if he had finished the season without getting injured. So he would definitely earn some credibility there. Obviously, tackle numbers are just tackle numbers. They don't really tell you who's good. I don't think that EJ Speed's one of the best linebackers in the league just because he has a lot of tackles. Pro Football Focus, not a big fan of him. They gave him a slightly below average grade on over 1,000 snaps last year. And the year before that, a little bit better. They gave him about an average grade, right around average, mediocre, 65. So 730 snaps. I mean, he's played well in the past. He's clearly capable of good things. On that Colts team, you're kind of hung out to dry because they don't have a good offense. So as a linebacker, that probably affects you. But, I mean, we saw with Robert Spillane earlier today. Just because you're on a bad team and a bad defensive unit doesn't mean that you yourself are going to play poorly. I don't think he is. And maybe EJ Speed is. He's just not quite that caliber of player. But relatively young. You know, we're talking about a guy who's about to turn 30. I wouldn't call that young, but I wouldn't call it old to the point where it's going to be a problem. EJ Speed will probably be good for a couple more years at the minimum. I imagine that he's got 3 good years left. I mean, he was 24 when he came into the league, and remember how little he played early in his career. He was a depth piece until after his rookie deal was up. So, Spotrac, 2 years, 10.8 million, which is 5.4 per year. I mean, it's not a terrible option. I'm not big into it necessarily. I'm kind of of the impression that this guy is more of a tackle farmer than he is an actual big time impact linebacker. So I'm not super hot to trot here, but again, you have Mike Macdonald. Mike Macdonald is the linebacker whisperer. If he sees something with these players that he likes, he can go, okay, hook me up with that, give me that, and I'll figure out the rest. Just give me the guy who has the talent, and I'll get the best out of him. So if McDonald looks at EJ Speed and he feels like, hey, I can do that. I can take 2 years, $10.8 million worth of linebacker and get much more out of it with EJ Speed in particular, then okay. But again, this guy's a little bit on the undersized side, I believe. I think he's a little bit smaller. So I don't know if McDonald will be into that. It's I theorized last year that he would want a bigger guy. Now I don't know. And at the end of the day, it might not be as black and white as that, right? He might be okay with a big guy or a small guy as long as they do the things that he wants them to do, regardless of size. So, not loving any of the options in this video, admittedly, but they're not bad options, right? All these guys are going to get a decent amount of money in free agency, I think, and all three of them have done good things in this league in recent years. It's just not very exciting, and if you're not surrounding them with other excellent players, you're probably not going to be too thrilled with the results. But let me know what you guys think about this trio. Cody Barton, Kazir White, EJ Speed. I think that it's okay, but I'm not a big fan of going at this level. If I'm going to sign a free agent linebacker, I want to move up a little bit and get somebody who's a little bit better, a little bit more reliable. Maybe they'll cost a little bit more, but that's okay. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks.